Welcome back to the third installation of the board orientation sessions for this new term. Today we're going to hear from Natalie Ham, who is the counsel for the school district, from Bill Brigman, who is chief HR officer. He has some of his staff members with him, as does Ms. Ham, and from Erica Taylor, who's chief of staff. So Ms. Ham, you want to get us started off?
Yes, ma'am, I'm happy to do it, but first I'm going to punt over to my colleague for Mr. Brigman. I think he's all scheduled and set up to go first.
Well, you're absolutely right. He would appreciate that.
Thank you, Natalie.
That's quite all right.
Thank you. I have my team here, so I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bill Brigman. I'm the Chief HR Officer here for Charleston County School District. We're proud to be here. I have a couple of my teammates here for us to go through some of our areas in human resources and share some fast facts about what all we do for the district when it comes to talent, to support teachers in classrooms and all staff. So Erica, if you'll go to the first slide. So part of the Charleston County School District strategic plan, goal 4, is tied to human resources for talent development. So the goal is to implement a pipeline that recruits, supports, retains, and rewards talented teachers, principals, and staff for every school. If you'll go to the next slide. So I'm going to introduce to my left here April Butler. She's part of our teacher recruitment team, and April's going to review some fast facts about teacher recruitment.
Good afternoon. My name is April Butler, and I am a member of the HR recruitment team. I am also a product of Charleston County School District from my elementary years to my high school years, graduating with the class of 1996 at Baptist Hill High School. Go Bobcats. I have also served with the district in the district for 21 years now, from classroom teacher to teacher effectiveness specialist with the Office of Teacher Effectiveness to assistant principal, and now with the HR recruitment team. I say all of this to say that I invested in the work of the district and the district personally and professionally. As a teacher recruiter, our main responsibility is to build candidate pools and manage the hiring recommendations for all schools and programs across the district. Here you'll see a snapshot of the data that shows evidence of our recruitment work for this current school year. There were 559 new hires for the 2021 school year, with 452 of those candidates being new to Charleston County School District. As we look at those 559 new hires, 392 of them were from the great state of South Carolina. That number, as you can see, a little over doubles that of our out-of-state new hires, but that's due largely in part to proximity, of course, and the partnerships that the recruitment team has made with colleges and universities across the state. Further looking at those 559 new hires in terms of certification, 447 of those new hires came through the traditional certification route, meaning that they matriculated through a college or university's education program and secured certification in that manner. Our alternative route certification new hires totals 112. Alternative route programs are primarily programs that allow a candidate that has a bachelor's degree or higher to obtain a certification through the requirements of those alternative certification route programs. You may have heard of some like PACE, Teach Charleston, Teach for America, Teachers of Tomorrow, etc. The last bullet is last but not least. We wanted to highlight some areas that the recruitment team is thinking outside of the box in order to obtain these candidates, as they are hard to fill. The areas of special education, math, science, English, Spanish, art, music, and CTE courses are content areas in which recruitment specialists, again, are thinking outside of the box and using all of our resources to help fill these difficult areas. As you know, we're competing largely with business world for these content areas. Thank you.
Thank you, April. And just touching on the traditional certification versus alternative route certification, and I've been with the district for some time now and involved with teacher recruitment for many years, and we are definitely, as a recruitment team, as a district, seeing an increase in the number of our candidates coming through alternative route certification programs. And I'll talk a little more about some of those initiatives later in the presentation, but it's really important to recognize that we are seeing fewer young folks going through traditional College of Ed programs to become teachers. So many districts are faced with how do we grow our own teachers in many ways. So that's important to note. I would say several years ago, really PACE was our biggest producer of alternative route, and we usually average probably about 50 PACE teachers coming through the PACE program. So our next slide, our next presenter is Crescenda Jenkins, who's the Director of Business Services, and she's going to talk about administrator and classified recruitment and hiring, as well as business services. Crescenda.
Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Crescenda Jenkins, Director of Business Services and for HR. I've been with the district for 15 years in human resources. I'm also a fellow Bobcat, graduate of Baptist Hill High School. I also have 3 children that are part of Charleston County School District. So I'm just going to give you a high-level overview of some of the things that we do in administrative and classified hiring, as well as business services. The classified and administrative hiring, we are responsible for meeting the administrative and non-certified staffing needs for all of our schools and departments. Some fun facts related to that. For 2021, we had 206 non-certified new hires. Those include positions such as teacher assistants, secretaries, clerks, positions of that nature. We also had 62 administrator hires, and those include positions like principals, assistant principals, supervisors, things of that nature. In addition, due to the pandemic, we modified the traditional face-to-face new hire orientation and moved to a virtual platform in June of 2020. With that, we conducted 36 sessions. 812 new employees attended those virtual sessions. And we also include other departments in our new hire orientation to include security, our payroll department, risk and safety services, and also our benefits department. Next slide. A part of our business services, what we do in that area is we're responsible for the leadership and development of all of the HR strategies as it relates to the district. So essentially, we focus on HRIS, which is basically all of the systems that Human Resources uses. Our MUNIS system, which is our payroll system, our applicant tracking system, our contract system, which is Frontline. We also manage the personnel action aspect, everything that relates to an applicant or a hire from the time they are brought on board until the time they retire. We also are responsible for records management, training and development of HR staff, and also compliance. So some fast facts about business services. We transitioned approximately 6,800 paper employee personnel files to electronic files. That also includes our benefit files as well. During the pandemic, we successfully launched our electronic contract issuance initiative, where we sent out approximately 3,559 teacher contracts, as well as 1,657 letter of intents to our classified staff. And all this was done virtually online through our recruitment team and also our business services department. In addition, we've completed a little over 1,000 employment verifications for our staff, as well as processed 827 I-9s successfully through our E-Verify system. So this is just a brief overview of some of the things we're responsible for under classified and administrator hiring and business services. Thank you.
Thank you, Crescenda. I'll just comment on our new hire orientation when we moved to a virtual format. Has been very effective and efficient. I think my recommendation would be to continue that even beyond the pandemic. It's been a very efficient way of working with our new hires. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, especially as large and as spread out as the district is, it's been, again, very effective. I'd also comment Crescenda's group, really the undertaking of converting all of our paper personnel files, as you can imagine, that's a lot of paperwork to electronic format has just been amazing this year. It's so efficient for us. I know it impacts other departments like Natalie Ham's group who needs access to personnel files that it's now electronic. So we're quite proud of that work. So our next presenter is Robert Bowers. He's the Director of Benefits and Compensation, and I think he's coming to the podium.
Thank you, Bill. Can everyone hear me okay? Good, thumbs up. As Bill mentioned, my name is Robert Bowers. I am the Director of Benefits and Compensation. Give you a little bit of overview of each of the areas and then some fast facts. I joined the district in 2013 as an HR supervisor. I then moved into a compensation officer role before being in my current director position. So that's my history here with the district. Benefits manages the state health insurance plan. We basically have two options for employees to choose from. What I would consider a traditional 80-20 plan, as well as a high deductible plan, as well as the retirement plan. Again, there are two options. We have your typical South Carolina retirement system plan, which follows along the lines of an annuity. And then we also have an optional retirement plan that can be chosen by the employees that more relates to a 401k type plan. Both of those, the health insurance and the retirement, are managed by PEBA, the Public Employee Benefits Authority. In addition to that, we offer supplemental insurance policies such as short-term disability or universal life insurance. Of course, these, again, are optional. Employees can opt to choose those or not. Also, the benefits area manages leave management. So that includes FFCRA, which is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which everyone has become familiar with over the last few months, and is right in the forefront of our benefits department. So we manage that, as well as medical leave such as FMLA, non-medical such as military leave, annual leave also known as vacation, personal business, and sick. Overview of compensation. Compensation manages all the salary schedules by fiscal year, which are of course approved by the board through the budget process. And we also manage supplemental compensation, such as if you manage the yearbook process at a school, for example, that's a supplemental compensation, or if you're an athletic coach. Those are a couple examples of supplemental compensation. Fast facts. In 2014 and 15, the district implemented a Fox-Lawson classification and compensation study. On average, at that point in time when we implemented that study, we were at 95% of market. So we hired Fox-Lawson to do that study for us. And then again, in 2019, Fox-Lawson had changed to Gallagher. So even though one's Fox-Lawson, one's Gallagher, we're talking about essentially the same company. They recommend that every 4 to 5 years, a new market study is done. We try to carry forward a market schedule based on CPI and those types of things that we get from Gallagher. However, every 45 years we have them do a market study, so we did that in 2019. In 2008, the board approved a 3-year phase-in for the teacher salary schedules, which would result in a first-year bachelor's teacher being paid at $40,000. And we'll get into more details in that later in the presentation. Benefits open enrollment. So that occurred October 1st through October 31st. That's an opportunity once a year for employees to review their benefits and make any changes that they deem necessary. During that period of time, we offer employees opportunity to meet one-on-one with a representative to review their benefits. 1,751 employees took advantage of that. Of course, this year that was a virtual meeting, not a one-on-one face-to-face meeting. So that's an overview of benefits and compensation. So Bill, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Rob. Our next presenter is Terry Nichols, our Associate Superintendent of Leadership Development, to talk about the Office of Leadership Development. Terry.
Yes, thank you. Again, my name is Terry Nichols, and I've had the amazing privilege of serving in Charleston County since 1978. Now, don't get your don't do that quick math and figure out how many years. It's just a long, long time. I've been a teacher, assistant principal at Mary Ford for 10 years, and at Bell Hall Elementary for 9, and I've been in central staff since then. I manage the Department of Teacher Evaluation. That includes the mentoring and support of new teachers, the Department of Employee Relations, and I also help with support learning services in the area of leadership development. In the area of teacher evaluation, the evaluation of teachers is mandated by state law, and we have to comply with the state law to ensure that all teachers are evaluated properly. And so in order to do that, we provide the training to the principals and assistant principals at the building level that will evaluate teachers. And this year, we trained 75 school leaders to be certified as SCTS, which is South Carolina Teaching Standards 4.0. That's our evaluation tool. This year, we had to do that virtually. It's a 3-day training, and our team actually wrote the virtual training of asynchronous and asynchronous learning, and that was very successful. We also have to conduct teacher evaluation orientations for all teachers being evaluated, and we did that for 3,902 teachers, and that was done virtually, and that was quite an amazing feat, but we were very successful in getting that completed. We also trained 147 teachers to be mentor teachers to serve as support for first-year teachers in their buildings. The Division of Employee Relations, we've handled hundreds of cases, helping to guide principals and other department heads through difficult employee conduct situations. These are employees that may have had a difficulty not following district policies, and so we guide them in solving those problems in the best way possible. And in the area of leadership, our department also conducts the monthly assistant principal meetings. That's done in conjunction with the Learning Services Division on topics that they would like to see the assistant principals gain more professional development in. And we've also coordinated the Aspire program in partnership with the Citadel. And Aspire is not an acronym, it's actually a program with the Citadel where teachers that are interested in earning their master's degree in educational leadership with a desire one day perhaps to be a school leader as an assistant principal or principal in administration. And so there's a program that the district teachers go through a cohort in obtaining that degree, and it's in partnership with the Citadel and CCSD are in partnership together with that great program. And we're in our 10th iteration of that. Aspire 10 is going to start in January.
Great. Thank you, Terry. So if you'll go to the next slide, Teach Charleston, I want to cover some initiatives coming out of the human resources area that I think are really important that I want to share with you all. The first one is Teach Charleston. So I mentioned early on when April was presenting about alternative route certification and the fact that we see fewer teachers coming through traditional teacher ed programs, especially as it relates to certain content areas like math or special ed, or helping us create a more diverse teaching, a team of teachers. So Teach Charleston, I'm really proud to share with you all, is one of 2 district-sponsored alternative route certification programs, which required state approval by the State Board of Education. I presented to the State Board in March of 2018 when we got approval around that time, I think early April. Greenville County School District, the largest district in the state, is the only other district that has a in-house alternative route program. So we rolled Teach Charleston out late that year with 1 member in our cohort, but quickly for cohort 2, we had 10 folks go through cohort 2 last year, and now we currently have 26. So we have 37 teachers that have been part of the Teach Charleston initiative. A very diverse group, and we're ready to really expand it. We intentionally wanted the second cohort, if you would call it the second cohort, with 10 teachers. We wanted it to be small so we could really work through the process. So to really clarify, with an alternative route program, when we hire a career changer who wants to become a teacher, they go through a summer program. It's pretty intense. It's a boot camp, really, and there's a lot of support there, though, a lot of mentoring that goes on. This group has become, when I say a cohort, they support each other, and it's amazing the network that each cohort has created among themselves and their communication and how they work together. But by fall, they begin teaching as a first-year teacher in our system. So we're very proud of Teach Charleston, and have presented this to some other districts who are considering, what this looks like for their districts going forward, because it is part of a really important future component on how we'll be able to recruit teachers and make sure we have all of our vacancies filled every year. Some fast facts, again, Teach Charleston's one of 2 district-sponsored programs in South Carolina. Our content areas are in math, science, English, art, music, and CTE. And we're planning to go forward in March of 2021 to present to the state board a request to add some additional certification areas, world languages for French and Spanish, special education, which is a really difficult area for us to fill, as well as elementary, which I'll talk a little more about the elementary piece here in a moment. Teach Local is another grow your own type initiative. So I recall a couple years ago, I presented this idea to Dr. Postaway, and I'm thinking we have a teacher shortage. We have 48,000 students in our system. So there's a group that hopefully will one day want to be teachers, right? A percentage of the 48,000. So how best do we tap into that and create an opportunity? So our first real attempt at this is through the early college high school. So our principal there, Vanessa Denny, was so excited to talk about this initiative, but as early college high school was growing at about 100 students per grade level, starting with freshmen, and now they have a group of seniors, our goal was to, at some point, have 25 students at each grade level that aspired to be an educator. And what would that look like? How could we keep that interest going throughout high school? How could we support them? So Teach Local now has as we look at the fast facts, for 2021, has 12 students graduating this May, a very diverse group of students. They'll graduate with an associate's degree or a certain amount of college credit through Trident Tech. They will transition to College of Charleston. There's a scholarship involved, and we will honor them and we will pay them to student teach and offer them an open contract so that when they have their credentials, they'll return to Charleston to not only have been a product or a graduate of our schools, but also now a teacher in our classrooms. One of the tricky pieces with that is they're very young going into our classrooms. So, but that's okay. We're excited about this, and at some point, Vanessa Denny you may see her, and she'll probably share a little more about this initiative. The next slide, Erica. So some other partnership highlights, as I mentioned, that the pipeline for teachers, especially coming out of teacher ed programs, traditional programs, it's put me as the head of HR in a position to really think about how do we grow our own, how do we meet our needs that we have in classrooms, because we have to have effective teachers in every classroom to meet the goals of this district, to meet the goals of Dr. Postaway, the board, and support learning services. So I believe it was around 2017, and I remember this day, I was going to Columbia for a meeting, and I'm a graduate of the University of South Carolina, and I definitely know that USC is the only program, the only master's that trains teacher librarians in the state. And we had a shortage. I remember talking to one of the recruiters before I left that day, that there were around 12 to 13 vacancies in our media centers, and what were we going to do to address that? And so I actually made a quick cold call to USC and just said, we're Charleston County School District. We have 3,500 teachers. I want to talk to somebody about how we could partner and offer opportunities to our teachers who may want to be a media specialist, may want to be a teacher librarian. So that partnership began, and in 2018, we had 10 of our teachers who were selected. They went through a process to become first cohort to complete a master's program. And the wonderful thing about that is once it started in January of 18, is once they had 12 hours of credit, they could actually go into a vacancy. So by the fall of that year, we had filled all of our teacher librarian positions. And since then, we have a pipeline. Christy James has been managing that, who's in Carolyn's area. It's been amazing. I've presented, I think, at 2 conferences on this concept, and it's just, again, part of growing our own. Another partnership with Clemson University is Dr. Roy Jones, who is the founder of the Call Me Mr. program, reached out to me 2 years ago and asked if Charleston would be one of 3 other districts who he was considering a scholarship, not a scholarship, a grant, a federal grant, that basically through the Clemson University Center of Excellence for Recruitment and Retention of Minority Teachers, we would establish a cohort, or actually a career development piece through North Charleston schools. So it was Burns, when Burns was still part of the district and not with Meeting Street, North Charleston Elementary, Morningside, and North Charleston High School. And basically it's around career development to introduce students at all age and all levels to opportunities to have careers in education. So the next partnership I'd like to highlight is fairly new. We're very new. It's kicking off this January, again with the University of South Carolina, and it's at our C.E. Williams North campus, and it's USC School of Professional Development. So the basic concept here is we have, it's sixth grade, we have teachers, an experienced teacher, we have a novice, a new teacher. The new teacher will be completing a master's degree through the University of South Carolina. The master teacher that's in the classroom, so there's 2 teachers, will also be completing some coursework, not necessarily completing the master's program. It's a 2-year commitment for the coursework, so this whole cohort there on campus are going through this process together. And once they complete their master's degree, the novice teacher's committed to the district for a minimum of 5 years because of the district's investment in this. Again, another Teach Charleston initiative around the Citadel Math Department. We have math majors graduating from the Citadel, but they're not trained to teach. They're not able to get certification. So we've had a pipeline, and a very small pipeline initially, of math graduates who are considering Teach Charleston. And College of Charleston is always a partner of ours. Most recently, we've offered an opportunity for a cohort of our teachers to add on special education to their certification, which is a high priority need for us. If you'll go to the next slide, Erica. So the Call Me Mr. program, many of you are probably quite aware of the Call Me Misters. There are 20 colleges and universities in the state of South Carolina with Misters programs. This actual slide here, these are our Misters who are now teachers in our schools, and you can see the university or college they attended. And Erica's team really helped develop this, but the idea around this is to highlight each Mister as an alumni and send this back to their college or university as a poster, several posters that could be displayed around the College of Ed and promote Charleston. That's correct. And also, the posters were hung in HR and also at the schools where many of these young Misters were teaching. It was a phenomenal recruitment strategy there. We have Call Me Misters come on site at least once a year for a bus tour of schools and to meet our teachers, meet our principals, and meet other leaders. COVID's kind of hindered that a little bit this year so far for us, but it's still something we plan to do. I enjoy meeting the Call Me Misters. They are an amazing group of young men. Every district in the state is seeking them out, so we feel like we get a little bit of ahead of the group by being able to invite them on to Charleston. Next slide, Erica. So a big part around recruitment and retention, as Rob mentioned, is about compensation. So going in and preparing for school year 2019 as part of the budget approval process, the board approved a 3-year phase-in for teacher salary, for the teacher salary structure. So my goal and what I shared with Dr. Postaway that year is I wanted Charleston County School District to be the highest paying district in the state. We did achieve that, I think, for a moment in time because other districts were very quick to jump on that and to figure out that they needed to start increasing their pay schedule. I think Greenville might have beat me to the idea of $40,000 starting salary, but that was the goal for the 3-year phase-in, was to have a starting salary of $40,000 for a first-year teacher. So a first-year teacher would be a teacher with a bachelor's degree and no experience yet, so brand new into the profession. But just to be really clear, that adjustment on the schedule impacted every teacher, whether you had a bachelor's in 15 years or what have you, it impacted the entire schedule. COVID has put a slight delay on that. This current school year would have been the 3rd year of the phase-in. We're kind of in a holding pattern right now where we were not able to increase or offer steps to teachers, but hopefully at the first of the year when the state approves their budget, we'll be able to adjust. Just some fast facts about teacher pay in general. I included the state of South Carolina establishes a minimum teacher salary schedule for all districts. So there's a minimum amount, a minimum schedule, a minimum salary that districts are required to pay. We pay above that. The schedule itself is built on education level and years of experience. So education, a bachelor's 18, a master's degree, a master's plus 30, a PhD. And when we say step, you'll see step often replacing years. So your step or either your years of experience. The maximum step that the state requires on the teacher's salary schedule is 23, so step 23 or 23 years. Our maximum is 25. However, in some of our high poverty schools, to attract and retain talent, we offer a maximum step of 30. Next slide, Erica. So the same year going into school year 2019, the board approved a math salary schedule for high poverty middle and high schools with a starting salary of $45,000. That was a real game changer for us because we, like every district in the state, in the nation, we're all struggling to find math teachers. It's one of our toughest areas to fill. I was proud to tell the superintendent that year, going into the fall of 2019, we filled all of our math vacancies 2 years in a row for the first day of school. I probably created, I might have made some, I don't want to say enemies, but with my neighboring districts, because some more experienced math teachers that were in neighboring districts transitioned to Charleston, because especially if you're experienced, you see an increase in your pay, and if you're at a point in your life where you're starting to think about how that impacts state retirement, it can be a really good package. So that's been, I've dipped into my fast facts there, but the first year for 2019, we hired 44 math teachers, and only 4 of the 44 were brand new teachers. The rest were experienced. CCSD salary schedules. So in the fall of 2020, past fall, the board directed administration to look at our salary structure for non-teaching positions, looking back at what Mr. Bowers talked about with the salary study, for us to be 98% of full market. And there's a real need for that to make sure that we are recruiting talent, retaining talent, that we're addressing the cost of living in Charleston for all employees. You all are aware of the cost of living in Charleston, and especially the cost of housing in Charleston. If you'll go to the next slide. So Mr. Kennedy is going to join me or come to the podium, or I'm not sure. It's part of this next piece, but this is an illustration of our diversity.
2-minute warning, Mr. Brigman.
Oh gosh, okay. Our diversity recruitment plan that I recently shared with the cultural competency team that Don Kennedy leads. And there's some highlights of pieces I've already talked about. Teach Charleston, which is our in-house alternative route. alternative route is a key, it's an amazing recruitment strategy to have a more diverse teaching group. Part of that with Teach Charleston is an adjunct residency program where we are approaching the state about adding elementary certification and we're very intentional that we would like to hire male teachers of color at the elementary level as part of the Teach Charleston initiative. Teach Local, I've already talked about through early college, high school, Call Me Misters, I've mentioned, and I'm going to turn it over to you to comment, Don.
Okay, so you want me to comment on the,
What we're, December 11th?
yes, okay, so, yes, you're probably aware, the district has a challenge of recruitment and retention of minority teachers. It's a problem that exists across the country, and so we have formed a internal collaboration to try and address, to improve our outcomes on that. And so we have a collaboration that's just been created between Bill Brigman in HR and his recruitment team, the cultural competency team, and we have a group of 5, probably about half a dozen principals that's being led by the principal group, and the whole entire team for this effort is being led by the principal at AC Cochran, Cornetta White. If you look across the district at her teaching staff, she's one of the leaders in the district that has done a great job in recruiting and retaining minority teachers. So this coming Friday, there's a national conference. It's a virtual conference, National Teachers of Color. That conference is geared towards identifying and exploring strategies to recruit and retain minority teachers. So this internal team that we have created that consists, again, of the HR recruiting staff, this group of principals and members of the cultural competency team will attend that conference and then develop strategies that we will explore for implementation through the budget process for fiscal year 22. Yeah.
Thank you, Don. My last slide, I know I'm out of time, gives you information on how to locate the organizational charts on the district website. It's pretty straightforward. It's on the About Us tab, and it's at the bottom of that page by division. Thank you, Dr. Postaway.
Mr. Brigman, thank you. We really appreciate the overview from Human Resources. April, Crescenda, Terry, Don, and Rob, thank you for stepping to the podium, and all of the other team members who helped prepare the presentation. We have 15 minutes for board member questions. I realize this is just a lot of material and territory to cover, but we'll rotate among board members. Dr. French is on the call, so we'll rotate, give each board member an opportunity to ask one question. And if you have additional questions, Mr. Brigman will be available during the break, or you can email Julie with questions and we'll get the responses back to everyone. So Ms. Waters, would you like to start us off?
Sure, I can start. When it comes to the partnerships for diversifying the teacher pipeline, are there any specific targets or metrics that you're trying to hit in terms of just increasing the number or, what have you?
Our team is not, and part of that partnership will be with Don's group too, as to some goals and metrics. We've talked about it, but we haven't talked about specifics. But I think that's something we should do so we can measure our success. I know that in the last couple of years, we usually, the number of teachers of color in our current workforce is about 14%. It's now right at 17%. So we have seen an increase with some of the initiatives we've rolled out.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Frazier?
Thank you. Mr. Brigman, could you supply us with the number of minority principals and teachers in the district? And I may be asking this question a little too far in advance, but at some point in time, I'd sure like to have those numbers.
Yes, ma'am. I have those numbers. I'll work with Dr. Postaway to share that with the board.
Okay, great. All right, so if you could get me that. And then I'm looking at the partnerships that you have with other colleges and universities. And I see a lack of commitment to the HBCUs, not just in terms of the Mr. program, but as an overall commitment to including my alma mater, South Carolina State University. So you have actually jumped over Orangeburg,
Well,
and we're now at Clemson,
in fact,
University of South Carolina.
well, so I'm from Orangeburg. I went to Orangeburg-Wilkinson, and I understand what your concern. Dr. Anderson from SC State, we have met and talked several times, and specifically around the Call Me Mr. program, but also around the funding piece around Call Me Mr., which is part of the Call Me Mr. scholarship piece that I didn't get into much detail around, that the discussion has been that he has potential misters, but there's not enough funding, and can the district somehow partner? So to be completely honest with you, in conversations with him, we rolled into COVID-19, and I know that should not be an excuse, but things change for not only for us as a district, but for college and universities and how they were operating. So part of the conversation with cultural competency, because I'm wanting to respect Don and the team that he's created, we will be talking about partnerships specifically with HBCUs, but also recognizing that institutions like Clemson can also have a large number of minority candidates in their program as well. Dr. Jones, who's the founder of Call Me Mr., is one of my main contacts at Clemson.
Thank you. Mrs. Herderick?
My questions have been asked.
All right,
and
thank
answered.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Coakley?
Actually, mine was asked too about the number of minority teachers, and I did come in late, and I want to apologize, but that was a question that I was going to ask.
All right, thank you. Dr. French?
Oh, hello. Wait, sorry.
We can hear you.
Okay, hello. I was just putting in my headset. I did actually have a question, and I'm sorry, I've sort of been in and out, so if it wasn't answered, I apologize. When Ms. Nichols was speaking, she was talking about training for virtual learning and asynchronous learning, and I wanted to ask a follow-up on that. She said it was very successful. You know, a lot of teachers are feeling that it has been difficult for them. Maybe the training wasn't as thorough as they needed. But also I wanted to know, a lot of teachers are having to teach in virtual and in person at the same time, which they were told they would not have to do. And as I understand it, they received no training to do that simultaneously. And that's been a real difficult situation for them. Is there anything that we can do to help them with that?
Well, I'll just address this is Mrs. Nichols. I'll just address when I was speaking about the synchronous and asynchronous virtual training that we put on, that was for when we were training principals and assistant principals to become certified in the South Carolina Teaching Standards 4.0, the evaluation tool. That's usually a 3-day training, and so we wrote our own training module that could be completely virtual, and it's a pretty intensive training. So, and that part was successful. I deferred to Learning Services to answer the questions mostly about the synchronous and asynchronous learning and the teachers teaching both.
Right, so I would simply say on behalf of Carolyn Belcher that you're right, that is an ongoing challenge. Not every teacher teaches in both modes, but many do. That's the only way we could serve all of the children in the manner in which their parents requested. So it is, in fact, challenging. Carolyn and her team meet with teacher representatives from every single school once a month, and there's a follow-up meeting with a smaller group so that training is constantly tailored to meet the needs of those who are still struggling or asking to learn some new platform. But there's no doubt this has been the most challenging and complex year any of us has ever encountered, and our teachers are frontline heroines and heroes in our system. So we don't downplay that at all, Dr. French. It's quite the challenge.
I would just make one other comment, if I might. The Office of Teacher Evaluation has done a lot of observations of teachers. Some of our evaluators have been out in the schools and have done teacher observations, and we are astounded and delighted and amazed at the teachers and what they're doing with the ones, especially the ones that are doing both teaching for, children that are sitting in front of them face-to-face and virtually. So there are some rock stars out there for sure, but it is a very difficult situation.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Back to you, Ms. Waters.
Thank you. So I think this is two different questions, and it's pertaining to the evaluation of teachers, but then as it pertains to evaluation of teachers and principals and superintendents, just how they roll up and talk to each other. So I guess the first question is, I know there are state-required evaluation portals. Is there a way to connect all of them, just as we think about creating the tool to evaluate the superintendent, how we could make sure that there's alignment there down the chain? Does that make sense?
And I'm going to ask Mrs. Nichols, who leads teacher evaluation, to comment on that.
Yeah, we have several evaluation tools depending on whether you're for teachers, whether you're a first-year teacher, a second-year teacher, or a continuing contract teacher. And all of those evaluations are housed and in something that that the state calls SC, South Carolina LEAD, LEAD, and they are all in there together, and they're all connected and tied together. And one of the things that our department does is look at the evaluation record of every single teacher to ensure that they have the correct evaluation in all of the correct documentation in there for that. And then that would roll up to, there is a principal evaluation tool, the PADEPT, and it stands for a lot of different things. I probably couldn't tell you all of them right now, but and that is also housed in SC LEAD through the state. So it does coordinate through there. I think it may stop with because the board does the superintendent's evaluations.
Gotcha. And go ahead.
It's a really good question about the alignment, and I don't know that that any board member had ever asked that, but we will get I think there are 9 different criteria on the principal's evaluation. We'll get those 9 areas of evaluation to the Superintendent Evaluation Committee for consideration.
Okay.
It's really a great idea.
Thank you. And I'm just thinking about, even if it was just a section, because I know, you do so many other things aside from, school, what happens inside of schools, but I do think it would be easier for everybody to be speaking the same language if everybody was held to the same standards, just their piece of the puzzle was sort of included there.
Dr. Frazier?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I'm looking back at my own career here with the district, and it was not a very pleasant one. What do you have in place for personnel who are having issues with a supervisor or having issues with anything in the area of employment? So is there a grievance system, or is there a department that they can go to?
Yes, ma'am. The Department of Employee Relations manages that piece, and I hate to put Mrs. Nichols back on the spot here, but she manages that group. But yes, there is a process in place for employees that need to file a grievance or have a concern. We take that very seriously.
Yes. We have, I say 2.5, but we have 3 individuals. One's just part-time that works with me in the Department of Employee Relations, and we do handle grievances. We do consultations. We answer the phone call from if a teacher or any employee is having a question and just wants to know what to do if they're having a problem with a coworker or a supervisor. And sometimes we just offer advice and suggestions. Sometimes we'd let them know about the grievance procedure and we manage that. There's a procedure for filing grievances. So we do try to resolve problems and try to, and we do a lot of resolution of problems with employees. We do go out and present, we don't really go out anymore, but we used to go out, and I guess we'll do some more virtually, to let all of our employees and teachers and other employees know about our department so that they can reach out to employee relations at any time. And we're available pretty much 24/7.
Thank you, Dr. Frazier. Ms. Hedrick?
I just have a quick clarification question. For the Teach Local initiative, those 12 teachers will graduate from early college high school. Will they go into the Bridge program at the College of Charleston in partnership with Trident, or go into full?
Go into what? Sorry.
Or go into the College of Charleston fully?
Directly into the College of Charleston, to their College of Ed program. Now, there may be a few students that need some additional coursework through Trident Tech, And Trident not obligated, but has agreed to take care of that financially, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Coakley, do you have any other questions?
No, I came in late, and maybe y'all have said this already, but specifically, what are we doing to target people, teachers of color, and retain them? What are we doing particularly to target teachers of color and retain them?
Where are we going as far as recruitment?
Yes.
April, I may ask you to comment on that as well, but we actually go to probably 50 or so, let's say, prior to COVID, because now it's all virtual, college and university recruitment events during peak recruitment season and throughout the year. And we definitely go to HBCUs. What I would comment on that piece, and I know Mrs. Frazier, or Dr. Frazier talked about SC State, when we go to events, any college event, there's a lot of competition, a lot of districts there that are competing. So when I talk about partnerships, and Dr. Frazier, I appreciate your comment about the partnership with SC State. Those partnerships are critical, because if you only show up at that university when there's a recruitment event, you don't have a partnership necessarily. So all of those pieces are very important. And what I would say is our recruitment staff, there's 4 recruiters, and they are what I would call, it's a sales job in many ways. They are promoting the district, they're promoting the opportunities, and they're working directly with colleges and universities. This is a phenomenal team that markets, for lack of a better word, candidates and schools. So those partnerships are really important, because I don't want to discount the importance of some of our historically white institutions that have large numbers of students of color that are in their programs as well. So we target everywhere there's data available to us, as far as the diversity of students that are coming through teacher ed programs. Did that answer your question?
Can I add to that?
Yes, you can certainly add to it.
Yeah, so the fact that we have the virtual platform now to attend career fairs and education fairs has given us given us more access to HBCUs across the nation. So just recently this week, we called all 109 HBCUs that were not on the platform. So we're able to get in front of those students to present to them the traditional certification opportunities as well as the alternative certification programs, just educating them on the possibilities of that with Teach Charleston or any other alternative certification route that the state offers, just to get them here. So the virtual platform due to COVID has really opened up a whole lot of opportunities that we probably would have been limited to due to travel.
Can I ask one more just small question? So almost like, and I know what we're working with right now is the fact that our children aren't really learning, or so we say, the way they're supposed to, and the teachers that we have, we feel like, so what are we doing even with the teachers of color that we do have to maybe increase their credentials to make sure that they are, therefore, even with the children that are coming in, to make sure that maybe they are also interested in also being, credited to be teachers also?
If I could just say, we did cover that, and so at break, if we could go over that with
Thank you.
and that would allow Dr. French the opportunity to ask one more question too, and then we'd be fair to everyone. But that's a great question. Thank you. Dr. French, do you have one question we could answer quickly so we can stay pretty much within the time frame?
I think so. I wanted to say that's great that you got all the math teacher vacancies filled at the beginning of the year. What's the current status of math and science teacher positions that are not filled right now? I've heard about a few, and I've also heard that getting substitutes is really difficult, and that some of the students are essentially receiving no instruction in classes.
Okay.
Because of that.
So this year, we started the school year with 2 math vacancies that were quickly filled. I measured that by the first day of school. There's currently a math vacancy, I believe, at West Ashley High School. That's correct, April? Yes. Science vacancies,
At North Charleston High, that just came up about 3 weeks ago.
All right. So Dr. French, we certainly, with COVID, we do have teachers that are deciding that they may need to resign or look at a leave of absence. It's not a huge number for a district our size. I think we've done an amazing job in HR and with our principals and other leaders to manage the requests and what needs to happen with leave and respect our employees. As far as substitute teachers, our fill rate is normally around 92% during a non-COVID year. It's in the high 70s right now. So we've been addressing substitute teacher, the shortage in various ways. And at the first of the year, we'll potentially roll out a slight increase, not an increase in pay, but some bonus type pay for subs to take on multiple assignments throughout the week. We also have a sub pool of central office folks. There's over 100 people between operations, learning services, human resources that have been deployed to cover classrooms as needed as well. So I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but we're quite aware and work directly with the level leaders when there are pockets of issues related to subs and deploy folks if Kelly Services does not have a sub for the day.
Are those teachers from the sub pool, are those people from the sub pool, are they teachers? Are they certified?
There are some substitute teachers who are certified teachers. So yes, ma'am, there are. It depends on the request and what the availability is, but we do have certified teachers in the pool, especially that cover a long-term type assignment.
Thank you. I think also just to as a reminder, I think we have one more algebra vacancy at another school that occurred last week, just in addition to the West Ashley High School.
That's okay. Thank you for telling me. I probably knew that, but
I have a couple of emails about that. And Ms. Coakley, I want to make sure that we get with you at break to talk about what we're doing to recruit the teachers. We're going to go ahead and move on to Natalie. Now we're ready for Ms. Ham and her team. So again, Mr. Brigman and team, thank you so much. Ms. Ham, I've set the timer. I'm the clock Nazi today. So
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I will go ahead and get started. Once Ms. Taylor is able to get the presentation up for everyone.
thanks, Erica, for handling the slides for everyone.
Will the HR team be around for additional questions during the break?
Mr. Brigman will be here, and
Okay.
yeah, his whole team is probably getting back to work. If they weren't, they are now. I can make that comment.
So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce myself while everyone else gets resituated. I've met all of you. We kind of did a little pre-introductory meeting before your very first board meeting, and I got to meet with you guys. I got to, of course, swear you in. So we have had some interaction, but officially I am Natalie Ham, General Counsel for the district. I have been here about 3.5 years. I moved here from Columbia for this position. In Columbia, I was an assistant city attorney where I did very, very similar type work, but for the city of Columbia. So I'm going to start by introducing my staff members. I have a paralegal. She's really much more than that. Her name is Sharon Bright-Harp, and she's sitting there in the red and black. Mr. Oscar Douglas is our legal investigator. He works directly with my office, which is extremely beneficial. And I also manage we have a law clerk intern program. So with the college, the Charleston School of Law, we actually work directly with them and get an intern every semester or so. And that person works in our office and gains course credit instead of monetary pay. And we typically like to, if the person works out, which we've not had a situation in which they have not, the person typically rolls over into a temporary law clerk position for the second semester of the year in which they are paid. And that's been cleared through our budgeting office to have a temporary law clerk. So right now, Haley Valente is our extern. She is not here today because she is taking exams right now. But hopefully come January, she will roll over to our temporary law clerk and be with us for a little bit longer. In addition to the Office of General Counsel, I also manage the Office of Risk Management. Mr. Walter Dosha, everybody knows him as Woody, is here. He's going to present on his department, and so I won't get too much into that, but I'll let you guys hear directly from him. So I started out, this presentation was really difficult for me because there's so much that my office manages and such a wide variety of collaboration with other departments. But I did the best that I could to give you guys a decent overview of some of the things that goes on in our office. I wanted to start kind of with your traditional claims and lawsuits. That's kind of the first thing that people think about when they think about a lawyer. And so I thought that I would just start there. We internally manage nearly all of the administrative claims that come from various state and federal organizations. We tend to use a lot of acronyms. And if I had put them, written them all out, that would have made 3 slides. So, the EEOC, the Human Affairs Commission, the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights, that's kind of like the federal level State Department, if you will. The South Carolina Department of Education, LLR, the Department of Justice, the Department of Revenue. All of those claims typically come to our office in some form or fashion. Depending on what the claim is alleging, I will meet with the department, coordinate the response, submit the response, manage the follow-up, manage to make sure that we're complying with whatever the terms are up until the point in which the department decides to close the claim. Some of these claims, I think that we have a EEOC claim still pending from 2006. So you can imagine that some of them take a really long time. Honestly, with the current administration, they have done a good job at pushing the cases towards closing. A lot of times the problem is the turnover within those offices. Obviously, we handle all the legal claims that come in through our office prior to litigation. There are times in which we're able to get things resolved without there being lawsuits filed. All of our insured matters. I put managed litigation with the little asterisk beside it because we have cases that are managed in-house with regards to litigation, but there are also cases that are assigned to outside counsel by our insurance company. And I manage that litigation as well. So everything from the coordination of discovery, production of witnesses, the witness prep, all of that I am directly involved in. My background is in litigation, so that's kind of easy for me, if you will. Hearings, depositions, mediations, appeals, all of that I tend to attend. If there's a hearing or a deposition or something that my schedule allows me to attend in any case that's been filed against the district, I will do that. We also manage procurement appeals and bus incidents. Those are things, but you might think that bus incidents are handled in-house, but the vendor actually is not CCSD, it's an outside vendor. So we coordinate with those organizations and just make sure that we've got the right information, they have the right information, production of videos, things of that nature. So some of the current issues, the media is often interested in lawsuits when they're filed. The challenge with that is, so because my background is in litigation, I kind of understand what that means in the sense of discovery and fact-finding and things of that nature. So typically, in coordination with Ms. Taylor's office, we will not issue a statement with regards to litigation. Litigation is typically filed for a reason, and there's a process in place by which should be followed for the resolution of any litigation, which usually includes a jury or a judge. And I like to keep it that way when possible. The length of time for resolution can be an issue because of sometimes how long cases take, especially with some of these administrative agencies. We get new board members or new staff members, different leaders of the organization come and go, and so sometimes it's hard to get folks that are actually knowledgeable about what the litigation is alleging, especially since the statute of limitations for minors tolls until they're 21 years of age. So typically you have until a child is 24 to bring an action. So even if something happened when the child was 3, you could imagine the length of time and the turnover and things of that nature. So thank you, Erica. Will you go to the next slide? This one I titled Student and Parent-Related Matters. There, on any given day, this is probably not an accurate number because I didn't consult Sharon, but we get about 15 calls a day or so directly from the schools with legal issues. We try and prioritize those just because we know that they have a lot to deal with right then and there. And so we try and get the schools a response as quickly as possible. If you ever see me get up and leave from a meeting, it's probably because Sharon needs help advising the schools on the matter that they have. So we manage non-resident students. We have a residency task force. There's a statute that allows for non-resident students to attend our district in certain situations. They have to pay tuition, they have to own property of a certain value and things of that nature. We manage all of that and make sure that everyone is in compliance, along with some folks from Mr. Kennedy's office who helps us keep up with some of those details. The foreign exchange student process, we don't manage the process. I shouldn't say it that way, but there are requirements for foreign exchange organizations, and we just make sure that those organizations meet those requirements before we allow a school to proceed with the process. Request to remain, I think you guys may have gotten one of these already, but these are just typically students and parents that live within our district at some point move outside of the district, but they want the child to stay at the school for whatever time period the parent requests. Discipline hearings, student records requests, IEP meetings, those all have a star beside them because we are involved in those quite often. But we only attend them, or I only attend them, when there is a lawyer on the other side present. So if a school is made aware that the parent is bringing a lawyer, or if it's a discipline process and there's a lawyer involved, if I can't be there, then I'll make sure that I hire a lawyer on behalf of the district to make sure that they appear so that we have representation. We also get enrollment concerns and issues. As you can imagine, the child custody and pickup issues when mom and dad can't agree. Those are some of the most frustrating things that we have to deal with, mostly because we're made to make a decision based on documents and statutes as opposed to the people involved. And you can imagine that sometimes parents don't like that, but when they're unable to agree, that's the only way that we can handle it. And we do legal agreement reviews, like custody agreements, divorce decrees, separation agreements. Schools get those and have no idea what to do with them. And so we will help advise the school kind of, this is what it says, this is what you should do in these situations, and this is how you should move forward. If there are any questions, they always give us a call back. And I think I've already addressed those issues and future actions. Next slide. So some of the board-related matters, which we've covered a little bit of in our past work this past month. But obviously I work with the policy committee very closely. I work directly with the departments. Typically when there is a policy change or policy suggested change, I'll go to the department and just ask them to take a look at it, and make sure that it aligns with internally what it is that they do, make sure that it aligns with the capacity that they have and things of that nature. And then I do a legal review kind of the language to make sure that it's clear, to make sure that it's executable, and to make sure that it's solid. And then I will, after doing the cross collaboration with the departments, I'll typically meet with the policy liaison, who is Dr. Frazier. She and I have actually done this already before, a couple times now. And Dr. Frazier will make the decision with regards to which policies she's comfortable with going on the agenda for the committee meetings. And if not, board members have alternative ways to get things on the board agenda. We also provide legal advice on contracts, claims, lawsuits, issues, actions that could lead to litigation. All of that is typically done in executive session with the board. I'm always in executive session. I participate in agenda review to make sure that the items that are included within executive session are appropriate pursuant to the statute. If there are any legal issues, I will address those directly in executive session. Sometimes the issues aren't my issues, but other departments, but I'm also there just in case you guys have questions with regards to legal standards or whether or not this is legally sound. If we do this, are we going to get sued kind of thing. So I'm always there for you guys to ask legal advice of. Some of the current issues that we've had run into in the past just have been that board members not having an understanding of what it means to protect privileged information. Conversations with your attorney are typically privileged, and they're privileged for a reason. If you release the information, it could put the district in a compromising position. The confidential nature of some of the information that's presented should stay that way. And so those are some of the challenges that we have. I'm a page behind, I'm sorry. Other legal matters. Teacher dismissal appeals. When there's an appeal by a teacher, not only is can be appealed at the school level, but it can be appealed at the state level, which may require a hearing. If it does, I attend the hearing and act on behalf of the district. Breach of contract hearings are the same. I do the same thing there with the State Department. There are classified appeals that occur here at the district. I don't manage those, however, we do coordinate them. And so we work directly with the Superintendent's Office to identify the hearing officer for that particular hearing and coordinate the evidence and make sure that everybody has what they need for the hearing to move forward. We get lots of subpoenas in this district from all over, not just for CCSD-related litigation. There are times in which there is family court matters where a teacher might receive a subpoena. We will typically call the teacher, meet with them via telephone typically, and just advise them of certain aspects of litigation, just giving them a brief overview of what they can expect. There are times in which I will contact the attorney that has served the subpoena on the teacher to get a better idea of what it is, what testimony they're soliciting, so that then I can better advise the teacher and prepare them. They're typically terrified to go to court. But with that being said, they also get requests to write statements or sign affidavits, especially in family court cases. And what we will typically do is, if that request come in, we have been advising the teachers, the principals, to please contact our office because we want to review that affidavit before it goes out to make sure that there are no opinions in the affidavit, that they're just facts, which is what they should be. And what I mean by that is, there are times when we get statements that say, oh, mom is a great mom. She brings cupcakes every day, and the kid is here on time, and she volunteers and she donates. Well, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't opine as to the fact that she's a great mom. You should just say the child is here on time, the child is clean, the child is dressed appropriately, things of that nature. And so we try and help the teachers with those affidavits so that they don't get into a situation in which they are weighing in on one parent versus another. FOIA requests, that's our favorite thing in my office. Just kidding. My office does not directly manage FOIA requests. Actually, Ms. Taylor's office does, but we work very, very closely with her, especially with regards to those requests for personnel files, copies of emails, settlements, information, and student information. Those things typically fall within the legal realm. Personnel files, we actually get them. We review them. We have typically 3 levels of review. Our law clerk reviews them first, and then Ms. Brighthart reviews them. She does her standard redactions, and then I review them personally myself to make sure that nothing was missed and that nothing is released that shouldn't be released. Same thing with emails and settlements. Student information we hold very tightly. FERPA does allow for the release of certain types of student information, so we make sure that the request aligns with the FERPA guidelines so that no student information that should be released is not. Some of the issues that we run into is when there is litigation, especially the litigation that is directly against CCSD, because of the incident typically happened directly at a school, there'll be times when witnesses are pulled from the school or from departments. And so on any given day, you might have, 4, 5 witnesses gone from a school for testimony, and that definitely affects the students and the staff they're left at the school. So we try and coordinate with the opposing counsel to give us more specific times for appearances of witnesses so that we don't run into a situation where half of a school is gone. Let me see if I missed anything. Next slide, please, Ms. Taylor. Departmental supports, as you've heard with some of the other departments, we cross-collaborate quite often. I mean, everything from employment matters with Mr. Brigman, ADA requests for accommodations, contractual agreements. Every single department has contractual agreements, and they typically want to get me to put eyes on it before they get it signed. MOUs, MOAs, we do those, release documents. All of these types of things that you typically think of when you think of legal services, my office handles. Sometimes we're even just thought partners in certain situations just to kind of try and help figure out solutions. I don't directly manage safe schools. Woody will tell you more about safe schools, but I do manage the discipline process in safe schools. Seriously? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I thought that was the timer. I do manage the discipline process in safe schools just because I know what it looks like when our employees are questioned and they've not completed their training, and another attorney is questioning them about training that CCSD has required them to take and they have not taken it. So I monitor that closely. I think that's it for that one. Okay, great. So I'm going to finish up and turn it over to Woody. Now I'm nervous because Dr. Postlethwaite's timer has gone off, so I have no idea how much time we have left. But
you have 12 minutes left.
Okay, very good. I'm going to turn it over to Woody to give you a quick overview of the Safety and Risk Services Department.
Thank you, Natalie. Good afternoon. Yes, I am a wing down, but I wanted to come in and have the opportunity to meet with y'all and tell us what our department does. When I try to put together what our department does, I always come up with 3 bullet points. One is insurance, one is workers' comp, and the last one is whatever Natalie tells me. And so I'm going to go into depth on all 3 of those really quick. So insurance piece, it's really easy. Whatever Jeff's team builds, we insure. And so we're at about $1.9 billion in property value right now that the district is managing, roughly 100 properties. And every 3 to 5 years, we do an appraisal through our insurance company to make sure that our values stay up to date and that our new properties that we build or renovate are added in there. We have about 25 to 30 properties in flood policies or flood insurance or flood maps. And so we want to make sure those are insured appropriately as well. Then I talked about builder's risk already. We work with Jeff's team and the construction firms to make sure that everything is insured while it's under construction as well. Vehicle coverage, we manage all the vehicle accidents and the 400 vehicles that we have on the road almost on a daily basis. Then we cover the general liability, which we partner up with an insurance company through the South Carolina School Board Insurance Trust, and we work together with them. Our department manages the certificate of insurances, which is basically reviewing, making sure that each vendor has the appropriate insurance that the district is looking for. And then also we provide the district's certificate of insurance whenever students go on a field trip, whenever a district employee is trying to do something that we are supporting. And so we want to make sure that the other entity feels that we are insured and covering our end as well. And then the final piece on insurance is we have a student athletic policy, and we assist parents and guardians with if there is an injury at school or if there is an athletic injury. We have a specific policy for that as well. The current issue is basically what we're going through right now. Between COVID and hurricanes and earthquakes, it is changing the world economy tremendously. And so we work directly with a broker to make sure that we are getting the most competitive rate for our property insurance. As you can imagine, insuring $1.9 billion in property, you know, you don't go to your local State Farm agent and say, hey, we need coverage for this. So we have about 35 to 40 insurance markets that cover the entire district's property insurance. And that is domestic markets, Bermuda markets, and London markets overseas. So lots going on there. All right, then we're going to go to what everybody's been waiting for, workers' compensation, because that's the most exciting part, right? So the district by law has to provide workers' compensation insurance, and we cover, or my department manages that on a daily basis. And so when an employee is injured, we have a process to make sure that we treat them as best as we can and provide them the best medical care that they need. And so my department has a person that manages that daily, Tammy. We also have a third-party administrator, and they have insurance adjusters that manage that for us. We have 3 adjusters that are on our account for the district. Whenever there's an injury, things get complicated very quickly, and so our office coordinates between the third-party administrator. Sometimes if an injured worker is just confused on what the process is, we will assign them a nurse case manager so that that nurse case manager goes to the appointments, explains how things work, just as an extra service to make sure the employee knows exactly what's going on. Medical facilities, and then at times attorneys do get involved if an employee is not satisfied or doesn't believe that we're providing the best care. We also work directly with our department heads, supervisors, principals, administrators on any pertinent information for the employee's injury. And that doesn't mean that we are sharing medical information. What that means is the employee is on light duty and here are their restrictions. And we want to make sure we advise that supervisor on making sure we adhere to those instructions. We don't want, if there is a 10-pound lifting restriction, that employee goes back to work and they've got to pick up 25-pound crates all day. We can't do that. So we make sure that the supervisor understands what those restrictions are and make sure that they adhere to those restrictions so that the injured worker can heal up and return to work at full duty. And then we communicate between departments as well. Whenever an injured worker gets out of work or they're on light duty, there are several processes that we need to make sure that are followed as well. And so our department manages that. The biggest part on our department that we are missing right now is on-site investigations, and that is something that Natalie and I have talked about, and hopefully that's something that we can put in place so that we can, when an employee is injured, we can go on site, make sure there's nothing wrong. We have limited resources to do that now through Ron Crumps's group with work orders and things like that, but sometimes putting eyes on it yourself always helps. And then the final piece, whatever Natalie says, I just listed it as other services. That sounded a little bit better, I thought. So assist general counsel. Sharon and I work very closely together on FOIA requests, SCISBIT, liability claims, anything like that. So sometimes we get information first, other times Natalie's office gets the information first, and so we work together and collaborate, make sure that everybody has all the information that they need. Then the very exciting Safe Schools, it's our online employee training module. So by law, whether it is OSHA required, EPA required, or some other federal entity, we want to make sure that all of our employees are getting the appropriate training every year. And then the other part is we've started creating our own modules. So when Michael, he's no longer there, when Michael has something specific for security that he wants to make sure employees are aware of, we will create a module and push that out to all the employees. And then we set up the yearly training plan. And then as Natalie said, she follows up when people don't complete it yet. Our department does any sort of safety trainings, whether it is at schools, talking with employees. I have gone out and I'm a certified playground inspector. I have gone out and spent all day showing students how to use playground equipment properly. Things like that, you know, that's what I want to make sure of, is that everybody is safe and not standing on wires like Andy is over there. So I want to make sure everybody... And ultimately, I want to assess and protect the district as much as possible. Both our employees, our assets, our contents, buildings, all that. So that is the biggest piece that I pride myself in when people call our department. And then the final slide, my department is 3 people. Amy Huffman, our admin assistant. I've already mentioned Tammy Harrison as the workers' comp coordinator. And then I've been in this position for 2 years now, but I've been with the district 10 years. 8 of those have been spent in risk management. So I feel like I've had a good pulse on the district and know a lot of people that can help me achieve our goal.
Thank you so much, Woody. Really quickly, will you just tell them a little bit about what you do after we have a storm?
How long do I have?
3 minutes.
So the past several years have been very exciting because we get, we're in the middle of hurricane season. And so once a hurricane comes, we start putting some things in place, and we work with Jeff's group as well to make sure that they are managing everything and making our buildings as safe as possible. And then on the back end, when we do have damage and after damage assessments are done, we will go to both our insurance company and FEMA, and we will try to recoup as much money as we can under our insurance policy and under the FEMA policy as well. FEMA is a federal government, and so it changes every year what we have to do. And right now we are still waiting on funds to be dispersed from Hurricane Dorian from last year. But all of our paperwork is in, and every year we get a little bit better at making sure we recoup as much money for the district as possible. Just an example, Snowstorm Grayson several years back, we had a $975,000 loss, and we were able to recover all that back for the district through insurance and FEMA money. So that was a good one.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening. Dr. Postaway, I'll let you manage the round of questions.
Well, thank you, Ms. Ham, Mr. Duche, Ms. Brightenharp, and Mr. Douglas, if you're back there. I've been pinched too many times by my mother for turning around in church, so I'm not going to turn around. We do have plenty of time for board member questions, so why don't we reverse the order this time? And Ms. Coakley, start with you if you have a question you'd like to pose.
Not right now, thank you.
Not at this time. Ms. Herderick?
Same.
All right. Dr. Frazier?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to have copies. I'm a fingertip kind of person, so can I have copies so that I can build my portfolio of what is going on in the district? of your presentations, if you don't mind?
Yes, ma'am. I believe that we shared it with Julie a little bit late today, so it should be in board docs, but I am happy to provide you with hard copies.
Okay, and my first question is, there has been so much information in the news about lawsuits. And I don't know whether this is appropriate to ask now, but it seems as if board members are getting the information from the media. What is the policy on these lawsuits from students? You know what I'm trying to ask?
Yes, ma'am. So I will say generally this, just to address your initial concern as to whether or not this is an appropriate question. I am not shy about telling you all that I would prefer not to answer a question in public if I believe that it is legal advice or should be provided to you in a situation of privilege. That question I'm happy to answer. Here recently, there has been a story that was ran with regards to a settlement that took place before you all were on the board. And we had not had an opportunity to have an executive session to brief you prior to the story running. That is uncommon, but tends to happen as I said, with regards to the time frame of things in my presentation. So I don't know that there is a specific policy that addresses that, but my office and the superintendent's office try and make sure that we coordinate well enough to keep you all informed before the media puts the story out.
Thank you. Moving on to Ms. Waters.
I don't have any questions.
All right, Dr. French.
Hello. One question I have is I would like to get some clarification. My understanding is that as a board, we're an entity and we do have access to all executive session material, regardless of whether or not we were on the board before, at the time of that executive session, so that if we request it, we should be able to get it. And also, I'm glad that you're going to brief us on the settlement issue. I am curious to know why settlement documents wouldn't be provided to the board members whenever they are, whenever the settlement is made.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure that there's a question that I can respond to today, but understood is what I can say. I should look at my computer because you're remote here. I certainly understand your position.
And we can address some of the question in executive session. With respect to your specific question about whether current board members have access to personnel matters or student matters that were settled years ago prior to your being on the board and the file is closed, we would have to get, again, your attorney will have to give an opinion about that. I don't think I've ever in my career had a board member ask for access to a file of a case that was closed before they came on the board, so I don't know the answer to that. Natalie, could you make a note to check on that as well for response?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Moving back around the circle since we have some time left. Anybody have a question? If not, we'll go back to Dr. Fraser. She looked as though she might have.
I am just so full of questions. I'm a bit confused about law firms, and I'm doing some history here prior to you coming aboard. So we have 2 lawyers working for the district. How many law firms do we have working for the district? And I know we have Mr. Mazik, we have you, but there are other law firms out there. And I'm just trying to get a handle on who are all these people?
Sure. I think I can give you.
Why do we need so many lawyers?
I could have, on that first slide of legal services, I probably could have done an entire presentation, the length of this presentation for each of those items, right? So there are many lawyers that work on behalf of the district, only one that works for the district. Mr. Mazik does provide parliamentarian services at the request of the district. However, I'm the only lawyer that is employed specifically by the district. Now, my office does manage all of those things that I told you that we manage, and in such, there are attorneys that are appointed by the insurance company to manage some litigation cases that we work directly with. Those are typically at some of our larger firms. There are times in which I cannot be in two places at once, so my office's budget allows me to hire an attorney to sit in on a discipline hearing or an IEP meeting if I am tied up in something else. So there are times in which there are lawyers acting on behalf of the district pursuant to an agreement that we have put into place through my office, but I am the only lawyer for the district.
How many other outside firms do we work with?
I would have to get you that information.
Now, Natalie, you might want to just quickly explain what happens when the insurance company takes over for the district. We don't have control over the firm that they engage to represent. You might want to just explain how that works.
That's exactly right. While we have input, and I think that we've built a relationship to which our input is valuably taken into consideration, we do not have control over who our insurance company decides to provide casework to.
And I would also say that the way this works is Ms. Ham handles everything for the district unless Ms. Ham comes to me or the board and says, here's a matter that I need to seek some outside help on, and then she determines the best firm to reach out to. Mr. Mazik, as she mentioned, has for a long time represented this district and has served as parliamentarian.
Yes, and I work with several other attorneys at Mr. Mazik's office as well. Mr. Kennedy?
Just quickly, so I can give a quick comparison of this district to other districts and how districts handle legal matters. All districts I've been associated with, either the ones I worked for or ones I've done some work through the Council of Great City Schools, have extensive lists of attorneys. And so here in Charleston County, we have one attorney, and we have other law firms that addresses certain things. So for instance, in Seattle Public Schools, Boston Public Schools, Baltimore City Office, which I've worked for, they have a staff of attorneys that specialize. Each attorney specializes in certain areas. So they don't do a lot of outside contracting because they have in-house attorneys. Whereas here, we don't have in-house attorneys, so therefore we have these specialists that we have to contract out for. But it's comparable what we do here in terms of the number of lawyers that we engage, whether it's in-house or outside, as to other districts across the country of our size.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
I think, Dr. French, I think we've rotated to you again.
I don't have any questions at this time.
All right. Any other board members have questions? All right, Dr. Fraser, we'll give you an opportunity to ask another question, and then we're going.
That's it for me.
You good too? Well, this is just wonderful. We're going to go ahead and pause and take a break. We're going to go ahead and get started if it's okay with everyone. Maggie, are you ready? You're filling in with the slides? All right. Everyone knows Erica Taylor, our Chief of Staff extraordinaire. Andy Pruitt is here. He's part of her team. Maggie Dangerfield, and there may be others in the back, but I know Erica will do the introduction. So, Erica?
Thank you so much, Dr. Postlewaite, and thank you for allowing me to share just a little bit about what we do. And so the first slide, it tells the mission of the Division of Strategy and Communications, but I can almost stop with just the two words, to support. That is what our division does. Any student, parent, teacher, administrator, community member, if there's a need, if there's support that our office can provide on behalf of Charleston County School District, that is what we do. But in addition to that, specifically, we strive to establish the positive relationships, of course, between CCSD and our stakeholders, and our office is the link between the media and our district being proactive as it relates to media situations. So I want to talk about the Office of Family and Community Engagement, which is our most recent office added to the division, and that office was created to provide an opportunity for parents and community members to get immediate questions, concerns, issues responded to. There are 4 members who service that office, and in addition to the immediate questions that they respond to, they also support our PTAs and our SICs, and just as an FYI, there are 66 PTAs or PTOs in Charleston County School District, and as it relates to SICs, there's 73, and SIC stands for School Improvement Council, 73 School Improvement Councils in Charleston County School District. By law, schools are required to have them, and I am proud to share that I think for the past 4 or 5 years, Maggie, we've been 100% compliant. That's a project that Maggie Dangerfield, she's our Director of Strategic Engagement, she manages that specifically. We also support parent advocates. Most of our schools have parent advocates in the school that work directly with parents and families, and we support them at the district level. We provide training. I can share that last year, as it relates to SICs, we had 4 collaboratives where, for example, all the SICs in, say, District 3, which are on James Island, or all the SICs in District 2 in Mount Pleasant, they got together, and it was almost a brain trust, if you will, to bounce around ideas about what works better at one school or the other. So that worked extremely well for us, and we support that as well. And we mediate conversations between parents and our school-based staff if necessary. And then lastly, we connect our families with resources. As you can imagine, we get a lot of people who want to help our families if they are in need, and we make those connections. Grants. Many of you may or may not know that the Office of Grants is also part of our division. Last year, we garnered $18 million in resources, and that doesn't include grants such as Title I or IDEA. 76 of our schools won competitive grants. Out of that, we had 27 positive news stories for which we are excited about, and over 600 staff were supported in writing grants. So we are very proud of the work that our Office of Grants does on behalf of Charleston County School District. Communications, and Andy is here, and I want to just take an opportunity to pause and thank him for his leadership with communications and media relations. He leads that effort very well, and we are proud of the work that comes out of that arm of our division. I tease often, I'll say, Andy, why is everybody calling? They always want to hear from CCSD, but we are very responsive. If they ask a question, Andy is going to try to track down the answer, whether it's an answer or we can't respond to it. We are going to respond one way or the other, and that's a model that I'm proud of in the district. So I'll just share that in 2019-20, which was our last school year, we wrote nearly 200 press releases and media advisories. I mean, we fielded so many media inquiries. Andy probably knows off the top of his head how many. But we also manage crisis communications. We have an effort called The Stories of CCSD. That was an effort that Andy himself wanted to initiate, and what we do is we tell unique stories about our students and staff, which we are very proud of, as well as CCSD Insights, News, and Notes, which is a longer format, if you will, more of a feature documentary type story. We do several of those annually. And then as it relates to employee recognition, the Pulse of CCSD and the Unsung Educator of the Week are 2 other employee recognition communication programs that we have here at the district, as well as our relationship with Trooper Bob in the Safety Squad, which our students actually love. Relative to media relations, thank you, Maggie. We fielded, of course, inquiries from all of our media outlets to the tune of 852 last year. That's a huge number. Not only did we take the calls, receive the calls, but we also responded to every call. And that's to be commended, and Andy and his team does a great job doing that. We work with our publicity representatives, and so you're asking what that is. At each school, we've asked our principals to identify someone who's responsible for sharing the great news that happens at that school. And we communicate with those individuals on a consistent basis, and they share information with us, and then we, in turn, help provide support. If it's in the writing or video services, or if they photography, then we provide services to them to make sure that we're hearing from our schools as well. We coordinate media access as well as that we provide the media line, which you all know, it lists all of our public meetings that's produced and published every Friday afternoon. And as our General Counsel Ham shared earlier, as it relates to FOIA, our office is the entry point and exit point for all FOIAs that come to the district. And thus far, we've fielded 56 this school term. Video services, another component of the arm in which Andy manages, internal and external video messages for all stakeholders. I think there's a picture and a video, but we won't watch that since we're moving fairly quickly. But we do film all Board of Trustee meetings. We also film all special event and recognition coverage, and that's for archival purposes. I mean, we've been using YouTube and other platforms to show. I mean, we can't gather, but we can actually show the outside world what we are doing here at the district. Marketing and advertising campaigns, and last year, and this was an initiative that was a huge undertaking, but I think the team pulled it off flawlessly, was our 2020 virtual graduations. We were able to show the families and friends of all of our graduates last year. They couldn't come to an in-person event when it was time for them to graduate, so they were able to see them graduate virtually, which we were extremely proud of. We'll move on to our publications. Our office produces all of the official publications for the district. So there's a monthly newspaper. It's the Focus on CCSD. We publish about 25,000 copies of that newspaper, and it sounds like a huge number, and you'd think that a huge number of papers equate to a large number to publish, but absolutely not. We have a wonderful partnership with the city paper, and monthly our newspaper is circulated with along with the Charleston City paper. And then, of course, the other 5,000 go to our schools, and then various drop-off points around the district. So we do our best to try to push all of the positive information out about the district in various mediums. We also have an annual year in review. It's a coffee table document. You received that at your last meeting. We also publish a document for our valedictorians, something for them to keep. Parts of that document is also published in other media outlets as well. I know the Post and Courier picks up some of what we publish, as well as the Charleston Chronicle. And then we have some they're internal documents, but we want to make sure that our employees have information that they could use at their fingertips. So we have a guide to good communication, as well as CCSD design guidelines, as well as a few others. Digital media, as you all know, we want information accurate, we want it fast, and we want it right now. And so our team does an excellent job with our district website, as well as our school-based websites. And you can see the analytics there as it relates to digital media. You know, with Facebook, we have over 26,000 followers. We just launched our app probably less than 45 days ago, and we already have nearly 8,000 followers thus far, and we are continuing to garner more every day. Every week, we produce a weekly all-staff email that shares highlights of the week. as well as shares information about some of the employee recognitions we talked about, like the Unsung Educator and Impulsive CCSD Stories. We support electronic newsletters, so there are several departments across the district who create electronic newsletters, and our office facilitates that information for them as well, and we push it out to all of our staff. And then we have teacher blogs, and we manage the employee intranet and anything else electronic as it relates to communication. You may or may not get calls, but we have a notification system, and so what we do, it's powered by, the data comes from Power School, but we can send phone calls, we can send emails, we can use the app as well as send text messages to our families about what's going on in CCSD. And the levels of communication vary from district-wide to school level and staff only. Strategy and engagement also falls in the division. Last year, and we would have continued this year, but we want to talk about some of the initiatives that we've been employing for several years until COVID, and we were not able to do that. But we held monthly coffees with the superintendent all across the district so that parents, community members could have one-on-one opportunities to meet with her, ask questions, bring concerns, learn more about the district, and they were very, very well attended. As you can see, we hosted them at several businesses around the district. So the top picture is at a Panera. We all know we couldn't replicate that right now, but we do hope for the day when we are able to be able to gather and share in person. We hold listening sessions across the district, which means that we go to the 8 constituent areas and we talk with our constituents and parents in those areas so we can hear from them. We held quarterly stakeholder advisory cabinets, so that's a principal's cabinet, a teacher cabinet, a student cabinet, a classified employee cabinet, parent cabinet, and business cabinet, 6. And we held those quarterly, and that was also a way to provide the opportunity to hear from our stakeholders. We, of course, would speak at civic and religious organizations and be asked to come and talk about the district. And then, of course, we name facilities, and that also comes out of our office, which means a convening where we convene those individuals who are interested in naming a certain facility, and we manage that as well. As it relates to partnerships, just in terms of, our team is extremely talented, and so we have several members of our team who serve on local and statewide nonprofit boards, and so we wanted to just show that not only are they is the team doing work inside Charleston County and connecting with stakeholders, we also are servicing the community outside as well. And so they're listed here, but I would just say some examples of the partners that we have are Trident United Way, Panera, which is a huge partner for the district, Rick Hendrick, they actually support the Teacher of the Year program and allow our teacher to drive a car for a full year. And then the Charleston River Dogs. Also, out of our office, we support constituent board relations. And Dr. Frazier, I know you know this all too well, but our office supports the 8 constituent district boards, and the responsibilities are here listed. But Maggie, if you'd go to the next slide, please, just to share for those as a refresher, because I'm sure you all are aware that there are 8 constituent districts. There are 50 constituent board members. We have 21 district liaisons who support those districts. They attend all of the meetings. They provide district updates at all of those meetings, and they ensure that our constituent board members are aware of any changes that directly impact the school or community in which their districts, in which they support. And then there are annual trainings which have been held and which will be held for this upcoming year, relating to parliamentary procedure, code of conduct, and the student transfer process. Further, out of the out of our division, we support events and recognition. So all back-to-school events where we provide school supplies to students are supported out of the office. We support the Board of Trustees special recognitions. There will be several at the upcoming board meeting. All employee recognition events, the Teacher of the Year, the retirement program, any groundbreaking or dedication we support, as well as National Signing Day, and there are probably about 20 other events that we could add to this. Those are the major ones that our office directly supports. Marketing, so that the community knows all of the wonderful things going on in the district. We do a great job in trying to push that information out. So, you know, we use billboards, we use radio spots. There are several special campaigns that we've supported. School Choice is one that you'll see in the very, very near future. We're working really diligently on that. But, you know, kindergarten registration, back to school, we support Mr. Brigman's office with HR recruitment. And then, of course, we did put a lot of energy into the CCSD mobile app launch. And I will just close by sharing that our office also supports governmental relations. And so that means that there are meetings, frequent meetings with our delegation. We provide updates to the board. We provide updates to you as it relates to what's going on in the state. We've held several joint meetings with our delegation, the most recent being in July when we talked about our Safe Start efforts, and annually we've held a delegation breakfast, which we won't unfortunately be able to host this year, but we hope to be able to resume that event in 2021-22. With that, I feel like I have been speaking extremely fast, but I will pause here and allow any questions to be asked if there are any.
That was great, Erica. You did all that, and we still have 15 minutes set aside for questions and time to get everybody out by 2:30. So thank you so much. Ms. Waters, would you like to start the rounds of questions this time?
Sure, but I don't have a question at this time.
All right. Dr. Frazier?
I don't have any questions.
That's just amazing. Dr. French?
I do have a question. And maybe this is a bit, it might be too big for right now, but you mentioned the SSC programs or school improvement councils and that we're in compliance. And I was wondering, what do we know about how those are being organized? Are the schools holding elections for the various seats on those committees, et cetera?
Yes, ma'am. So the elections have already been held. And so we do know that, and that's how we know that all of our SICs currently are compliant. But we also have a really good relationship with Tom Hudson, who's the Executive Director for School Improvement Councils in the state of South Carolina. We held a virtual SICs basics Zoom training maybe a month ago, and we've worked with Mr. Hudson to bring another SICs basic Zoom training to our SICs. That date is January the 12th. We also have a staff person who is on the board for School Improvement Council, for the state school, on the state board for School Improvement Councils. So we are definitely in tune to how our SICs are functioning and how to make them better. So we are paying attention to that, Dr. French. Thank you for asking that question.
Thank you. Ms. Herdrick?
No questions.
Right. Dr. French, do you have any another question before we close out?
That's it.
Okay. Well, we want to, of course, thank all of our staff members who are here this afternoon, but thank you 5 new board members who've been just such yeomen about getting here and giving us this time to give the flyover of what we do. We look forward to working with you in the months ahead, and of course, after the holidays, we need to revisit operations with Mr. Barowie. We have not yet done finance with Mr. Kennedy, and learning services encompasses a whole lot of additional areas that we didn't have an opportunity to discuss with you the first time. So right off the bat, we know you're anxious for some information about the financial division, and Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Broy, and Ms. Belcher will be putting together some dates to propose to you to see if those dates will work for all of you. Julie, we want to thank you again for sitting in and taking the minutes officially. Andy, for doing the videotape. Have I missed anyone? I don't want to leave out anyone who's provided all the...
Michael and Evan.
Thank you, Evan, for the technical support. He is wonderful. I'm sure he's become your best friend. And Michael Reidenbach and the security team who is here for each of our meetings. So thank you so much. I know I've missed Mr. Mazik. If he is still on, Natalie, will you please make sure he knows we've recognized him and thanked him for his parliamentary services?
He gave a thumbs up.
Okay, great.
And I have an apology. Reverend Mack texted me at 1:59 to say that was me trying to get in. I just saw it, so I'm sorry, Reverend Mack.
It was not facing me, so I had it facing Erica. So Reverend Mack, if you can hear us, we are truly sorry.
I'm sorry. I was presenting. I didn't see it.
I have one question. Will we get an update on contracts and procurement procedures, or where does that fall?
That is handled under Mr. Kennedy's department in finances. So when Mr. Kennedy presents, I think he's still sitting there. You want to speak to that? That will be part of your presentation, yes?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. We stand adjourned. We'll see you Monday.